Hey, what's going on, guys? So I've made this UI design using Figma and wanted to make it comes to life through a Flutter application. And it's quite a challenge that I'm going to do in two parts. And this one will be working on the home page, and the next one will be for the expanded page. To make things easier, let's first understand the structure of this design and try to break it down into sections. As you can see, we have a column containing 5 sections with 2 list views, one of them actually showing these cards. Taking that in mind, and without further ado, let's get started. First of all, I did some initial configurations. I created this assets folder which has two subfolders, one for the fonts as we will be using a custom font called Maserat and the other for images. As you can see here we have this app icons font file and it's actually a custom icon. So if you have an SVG icon and don't want to use an extra package like Flutter SVG, go ahead and visit fluttericon.com. And here just drag and drop your icon. Make sure it's looking fine. Then enter a name and hit the download button. You'll get a zipped file containing several additional files. Just copy these two files to your project folder. Next, in order to use our fonts and images, we need to add an assets section in the pubspec file. And finally, I created the style.dart file, in which I initialized the colors that we are going to use in this project, a box shadow for better looking cards, a list of categories containing some text, a dummy text, and finally a content list for cards information. Each card has a name, description, icon, and color. Now let's move on to the main.dart file and start creating our interface. Let's delete these two classes, we don't need them for now. Remove these comments, the primary swatch, and the title as well. Let's set the primary color to white, and the font family to Maserat. Now let's create my home page. Enter the lib folder, create a new file, call it homepage. Let's import the material.dart file, as well as the style file and our custom icon. Style.dart, app icons.dart. Now let's create my home page class. Enter this container, as we are going to use a gradient color instead of normal color, we have to add the decoration property. Inside this decoration property, we have to set the gradient to linear gradient. The colors as a starting color, white, and the gray color as an ending color. Now for the starting point, it will be top left and bottom center for the end. Now let's create a scaffold child for the container. Set the background color to transparent because we are already using the gradient color. And for the body, I will be using a column widget. Wrap it with a safe area. Set the cross-axis alignment to the start. And this is making the children of the column to be aligned to the start of the cross-axis. And actually a cross-axis for a column is horizontal and vertical for a row. Now let's create a children property. Inside of it, a list view inside an expanded widget. Let's set the scroll direction to vertical because it will be a vertical list view, and add a nice bouncing effect. Another children property, and we need a container. Set the alignment to the center left and set a padding property. Now an icon child make the onPressed function empty for now, and set our custom icon. Set the color to black, and just like that, our top section is done. Make hot reload to see the changes. Actually, we need to import homepage first. Come on now. Okay, then let's import it. News. Homepage.dart. Hot reload again. Now let's add a padding widget. Make the top side 30 and add the text child. Hi adventurer. Now add style. Set the font family to Montserrat, the color to black, and let's make it bold, and 24 as a size. Oh, we need left padding. Now, as we are going to create the same text, let's just copy and paste it. Change Hi adventurer to let's discover the unknown. Discover the unknown. From bold, set it to normal. It's actually 16, not 216. Hot reload again. Now let's create a function. I'll call it build categories. And this function will create the first list view. Actually, let's set the top side to 10. Okay, then let's create this method. So what we are doing in here is creating an horizontal list view that will display the categories. So we will return a container, set a top padding of 40, and the child will be a sized box. I'll set the height to 40. And by the way, you can play around with the values to suit your needs. I'll make a list view.builder. Pass a context and an index. Now let's set the scroll direction to horizontal. Padding right and left. Right. Again, you can play around with the values to suit your need. Set bouncing scroll physics effect. And the item count is actually the length of the list that we will be displaying. So it will be a categories.length. Inside the item builder, we will return build context. We will return a method build cat name. Now this function will take a list, which is the categories list, and an index. And actually this index is the number of the item inside the list. And as we are going to detect the click on each item we will be returning a gesture detector. Let the onTap function empty for now, we'll be returning to it later. We will add a column child wrapped by padding, horizontal padding column. Now inside this column we will set the cross alignment axis to the start again. And we will set a children property inside of it, a container. And this container is actually the background of each item inside the list. So let's give it a vertical padding of 10 and horizontal of 15. Now let's make a decoration property to set the color of this container. Switch the selected index. So in here, if we click on an item, the color of this container will be black, otherwise it's transparent by default. Let's give it a border radius of 20 to give it a nice rounded border. Let's first initialize the selected index to 0. Now let's make the text of each item. Let's create a text widget. Give it the name of each category. Categories index. And let's give it style. Font family Montserrat. And again, we will switch the color. When we select on an item, the color will be white and the background will be black. Otherwise, the color will be gray by default and the background will be transparent. Let's make it bold and give it a font size of 14. Let's make a hot reload. Now as you can see, the list has been created, but we cannot click on any item yet. That's because the onTap function is still empty. Let's first create this build list for the cards, then we'll be returning back to the onTap function. Build list. It will return a container. Let's give it some top space. Padding top 40. And let's create a sized box child with a height of 400. And again, we can play around with the values to suit your needs. Give it a list view as a child. Make it horizontally scrollable. And give it some left and right padding. Left 80 and 20 for the right side. For the item count, it will take the length of the content list. Let's make the item builder, context, and index. It will return again a method, build content. Let's create this method. It will take the content list and the index. It will return a gesture detector. Let's go back and set the onTap function. So in here, if we click on each item, it will set that item as a selected item. It will set the index of that item as the selected index. Let's give it a stack child. Column, which takes a sized box with height 30 for some space, and a container with width 220 and 320 for the height. We will create the card. We'll give it a 12 elevation and make the shape rounded rectangle. Give it a border radius let's make a container. Give it a decoration property. Let's set the border radius circular 150 again, and let's give it a gradient color. Let's give it the content color as the starting color and the black color as an ending color, which is the e-card color. Make the starting point to the top left and the ending point to the bottom right. Now let's create padding a child. "50 bottom, 20 left and 20 right." Now let's create a column. Make the cross-axis alignment to the start and the main axis alignment to the end. For the children, we will make a sized box. We'll give it a height of 10 to make some space. And the first text will be the content header. Let's give it style. Montserrat. Give it a color of white. Let's make it 14 and bold. Let's make the text align to the left. Let's make the sized box height 10 again to make some space. Now let's copy and paste it as we are going. As we are going to just make the same text, we will just modify the description and the size. We will make sized box of height 30 and the padding widget. Let's give it 30 as the right side. And for the child, it will be a row. And this row will take two childs, one for the text and the other for the icon. Let's make the main axis alignment to the end. For the children, the first child will be the text. Expand. Let's give it the same style. Now let's create the icon. icons.arrow forward, arrow forward, give it a color of white, and give it a size of 12. And just by that, the card has been created. Now let's add a new row widget for the children sized box. It will take a width Now let's make the image, the top image. We will give it the content icon. So now it looks like we are done with the cards. Let's make the bottom section. Let's create a padding widget. Left 40. And top 5 to create some space. For the child, let's make text useful information. Let's give it style. Text style. Font family Montserrat. Color black. Let's make it bold. And gave it 16 as a size. Now for the next text. Let's make hot reload. And just by that, the card list has been created. Let's make the final padding widget. Give it some paddings. Inside of it, we will pass text child, which will be the description text of the useful information, which is the dummy text. Give it style. Montserrat. Black for the color. Normal for the font weight. And the size of 14. Hot reload again. And finally, our homepage has been successfully created with all of its sections. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe as it helps the channel to keep providing useful content. Check the description box below for the source code of this tutorial and see you in the next part.